Severus's POV. I immediately entered the dark forest where the towering trees made the place look horrible. There were certain dead trees and rock formations that surrounded the area. And for the first look, it was really strange and frightening to visit. And I really puzzled why Hirre managed to enter this place. The deafening silence embraced the entire area. And it was really impossible that there was a battle that happened in this place if the broken cars and tree trunk was not present. I scanned the area, and I could see the trace of blood around the scene, but I could not sense Hirre's blood at this moment. And when I remembered about Hirre's safety, I immediately called Andrasi. I took my phone and told her what I saw. And she was shocked as she knew that Hirre was in the unknown forest not too far to her pack. And she told me that there was something wrong about all of these things as I told her that Hirre was now encountering the hooligans. Because according to her, hooligans were not visiting the area, even the Rouges, because of some phenomenon that happened inside. They were considered this forest as a forbidden and horrible place for the as she added. She told me that only people who didn't know the myth inside the forest have a strength to enter. Might it was the reason why Hirre didn't afraid to enter the forest, even she didn't have company. And before I ended up our call, I told her to contact Hirre's uncle if I didn't call her back after 10 minutes. I quickly followed Hirre's sense until I heard a great sound not far away from the area. And when I tried to get there immediately, 2 wolves snarling behind me. They were really massive. But I did not waste my time and immediately fought them. I used my strength because they were good in fighting. And also, their muscles were thick and hard. If I did not use my strength and sharp sense, might I was killed by them. Fortunately, I ended up killing one of them. They were dragged on the ground motionless. And from their body, the bounty blood drenched out from that. And like what Hirre told me before, their blood smelled like a rotten flesh, and I thought there were connection between the hooligans and the wolves that I killed right now. I went closer to the other wolf that now slammed on the ground. I wanted to ask him where was Hirre and what were their intent for ambushing Hirre and destroying other packs. I stepped on his chest as he laid his back on the dirt. But instead of yelp, a mocking laughter made me feel annoyed. Where is Hirre? I growled at him, but he was still shutting his mouth. I slapped his face and pierced his chest. Don't waste. Why your time? She is now dead. Hi. Ack. He stuttered like a fucking idiot. But even he was a trash for me, he still give me a hot head. Low-key bastard. Tell me or you will die. I asked him again while I tightened my nails on his chest. Ugh. Even in the depth of hell I will never let you. But before he finished his words, my temper became dark and it caused me to smash his head on the ground. Thud. 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 And when my conscience came back, I saw the wolf dead, breathless, bathing on his rotten blood. But I didn't give much attention for them. I have to look for Hirre because I was worried enough for her stubbornness. I quickly ran away to chase her smell. I reached the middle of the forest and I heard again the rumbling of the trees. I quickly find the place and from the far away, I saw Hirre fighting a lichen. I was worried because lichen have a natural strength compared to her. And when I traced the way, Andrasi called me. And I was shocked on what I heard from her. She told me that the hooligans that ambushed Hirre was the people behind the spreading of her identity. And if I wanted to know the truth, I need to capture the hooligans' leader. And from the appearance of Hirre's opponent, I thought that he was the leader. And before I leave the line, 2 knights came and they told me that they were the knights that Andrasi sent to support me to the battle. We immediately ran to rescue Hirre. But for my investigation, the time that I used to train her bore good results because of her fighting skill. However, I have to tell her not to kill the Lycan because he was the only key to know who was the person behind all of the chaos. Don't kill him here. I growled in her back as I saw her opening her mouth against the Lycan's neck. But I never thought that Hirre would be lost her guard because of my sudden appearance. So before she slammed the ground because of my own stupidity, I held my hand to save her. But it was used by the Lycan to escape. And before Hirre's grandpa stepped on the ground, I felt Hirre was upset to my carelessness. I never thought that I would disregard her feeling because of my stupid action. And even I told her many times that it was because of the information. She would be angry at me at this moment. I didn't look at her after, but deep inside, I wanted to ask her if she was okay. And when I'm willing to lower my pride, her uncle and grandpa came to embrace their stubborn but brave young lady. And after a moment of pause, the knights came and they reported that the Lycan was suddenly vanished and even their radar could not find him. They told me that they did their best but no one else saw where the Lycan hid. I was little surprised for that and I wondered how the Lycan quickly vanished if Andrasi told me that the enemies didn't know the exit of the forest. There was little bit of confusion but I didn't speak again. Because I wanted to investigate it by myself to make sure that my plan would never been ruined. And when I threw my gaze again at Hirre, she was guided by her maids toward the helicopter. I saw from her movement the tiredness in her past battle, and the only thing I did for a moment was to look at her walking away, wishing her okay. Cring. Suddenly, I heard my phone ringing. Andrasi was in the line and I immediately answered her to know if Hirre was still going to her pack. "What's now?" she asked me, asking for the updates. "Hirre is safe. But the Lycan escape. I don't know how it happened but I think there is an inside job that puzzles me right now," I replied. "I think you are right. But before we know that, you should conduct investigation. Anyway, Hirre contacted me and she told me that she will continue her plan for visiting Hirre." Andrasi added, and I could not resist myself not to slap my forehead because of Hirre's stubbornness. "Thank you for the information. I will go there also," I said before I ended our phone call. I readied myself and wore my extra shirt before following Hirre at Metablak Pack. "Prince, where are you going?" Elias asked me when he saw me changing my clothes. "I will follow Hirre. Anyway, you should order the armies to clear the area. Even the daytime came, we should find the Lycan. I will entrust you to do that job." I ordered my gamma and he nodded his head. "What about the dead wolves?" he asked, and I remembered about the rotten blood. "Gathered them as usual and bring them to our pack. I will conduct research for their species," I added, but I never told him about my plan for knowing the reason behind their blood. Fortunately, Elias didn't hesitate to follow my instructions. I leave the place and used my sport car to go to Metablak Pack. I knew Hirre have a secret plan, and thanks to Andrasi for telling me about everything I wanted to know. Third-person POV. Hirre's private helicopter landed on the Metablak Pack base. And like what she expected, Andrasi greeted her as she stepped again to Metablak. They hugged each other as they get closer. "Hirre. Sorry I did not come to help you." Andrasi almost to cry as she saw Hirre's situation. "Nah. Don't worry, I'm okay. And if there is something bad, it is my fatigue," Hirre replied, tapping Andrasi's hand. Sigh. "Did you know that I'm so worried when you didn't came on time? In God's grace, Prince Severus asked me about you. I'm so sorry Hirre, your life put in danger." Andrasi bowed her head and she could not look straight at Hirre. Sigh. "The important is I'm now okay, right?" Hirre replied as she raised Andrasi's head. "Speaking of which, I have to know the results of my plan. Can I see it?" Hirre changed the topic because she doesn't want to see her friends blaming themselves of her carelessness. Andrasi looked at Hirre and her watery eyes get dry as she saw how Hirre reacted. She felt sorry about everything but she could not blame herself since no one wanted to make tie shit thing happen at Hirre. "If it is what you want, please come in." Andrasi welcomed her and they entered the massive room. It was not a kind of luxurious office but it was presentable for the coming visitors. The base was not too big but the guards secured every corner of their base. And from the remaining building and homes, they were now rebuilt and the surrounding was still nice and clean. And while they were walking, Andrasi could not stop herself not to ask Hirre about the lichen. Do you recognize the lichen you encountered recently?" Hirre was stunned as she heard about the lichen. Because as far as she knew, she did not tell to Andrasi why she was late on their meeting time. How did you know that?" she asked wondering, and Andrasi realized that Severus told her everything. She lowered her voice as she replied. "Actually, the prince told me everything. And I'm the one that called him when you are not coming yet." She bit her lower lips, expecting that Hirre would get mad toward her. But her worries faded when she heard Hirre's sweet reply. "Thank you Andrasi. Maybe if you didn't do that, I was still in the middle of the battle between them. Thank you for caring about me," Hirre said as she halted her steps. Andrasi nodded her head as she heard compliment. Andrasi faced Hirre. She felt relief and happiness. And after a moment of pause, they continue walking toward the building. It was not a good one but it showed greatness and uniqueness of the building's details. The surrounding was clean and there were no garbage around. The people were not present and only armies were there. And at first impression, the Metablack Pack was a reflection of the human world. And while they were walking in, Hirre felt the tightening of her flesh. She was still in pain even though she was almost healed. There were no trace of battle on her skin, even the deep wounds that Hirre received from the lichen. But even she struggled the most. She scanned the area and she was really stunned on what she saw from Metablack. There was a good and organized rule sign around. And wherever she looked at, there was a note saying the law that Andrasi conducted to her pack. She was really put in shocked because she could not imagine that Andrasi would do this for the sake of her pack. She secretly smiled, admiring the power and knowledge of her so-called friend. They entered on the private room where rarely visited by the elders. And because it was the safety place for them to talk about their plan. Hirre was comfortable since the place was peaceful after the battle before. "Please take a seat. And I will make you a tea," Andrasi offered and Hirre just nodded her head as agreement. She felt welcome since Andrasi was a sister and friend to her. Andrasi was a woman in her late 30s and have a great knowledge about human law, but she was still empty for seeking her true mate. Might because she was an alpha female and her life was existed to serve her pack no matter what happened. After a moment of pause, Andrasi came back with tea. But Hirre suddenly knitted her eyebrows as she smelled Severus getting closer. And when she looked at the door, she was not wrong because Severus was there, standing seemed like waited for the welcome greet of Andrasi. "What's he doing here?" she muttered in herself as she saw her mate. But she was still calmed for a while behind the many questions in her mind. Andrasi saw Severus and she politely greeted the prince. "Welcome, Severus. Take a seat." Severus sat on the chair next to Hirre without hesitation. They could not look straight to their eyes. Their heartbeats invaded the entire room because it palpitated very fast. However, they didn't show in each other the feeling that their heart felt. Hirre stayed calm the way Severus did. And when Andrasi sat, they started to speak about the plan that Hirre wanted to execute. "I'm sure that you both see how the human law organize my pack, right?" Andrasi spoke wearing a smile. "Yeah. And thank you for showing me the result of my research. But is there something disadvantage of having a law to your pack?" Hirre asked, and Andrasi took a deep breath. "Actually, it's not easy to conduct a law if our species wanted a freedom. But still, I showed them that freedom will lead into trouble if they go beyond their limit. And because I got the power, I executed what you told at me, and now, success. We made it. And in furthermore we can apply it all over our world." Andrasi happily replied, and Hirre smiled forcedly because Severus knew her plan. Severus slowly looked at Hirre. His serious face made Hirre to smile like a statue. She was really put in freeze. "Congratulations, Hirre. I know you can do it. Don't worry, I will help you to execute your plan if I have chance." Severus suddenly spoke, and it made the two ladies to turn taciturn. They could not believe that the future king would believe on their goals, which was changes and equality. Hirre's forced smile faded away and she looked at Severus. Her eyes shone happiness. And her world stopped as she felt the warmth skin of Severus touching her hands. "Kring. Sorry. But I have a emergency call. I'll be right back." Andrasi interrupted them. Hirre looked at Andrasi, who was running away out to the room. Thud. Hirre was shocked after Andrasi leave the place. And because the time was really fast, she didn't have a chance to ask Andrasi. And when she felt Severus' hands still holding her, she immediately took her hands away. She cleared her throat as she started to ask the prince. "I thought that you are with them, chasing the lichen. Why are you here?" But instead of a good answer, Hirre received a torrid kiss from Severus. She could not move as when Severus's naughty tongue scoured in her mouth. She felt something scorching her skin and face. And even her eyes wanted to close tightly as they wanted to feel the sweet of every stroke of Severus's lips. But suddenly, Hirre felt the aggressiveness of her mate. She wanted to resist, but Severus didn't let Hirre to get out from him again. Hirre could not move and she let Severus to do whatever he wanted since only two of them were in the secret room, third-person POV. After the battle of lust and pleasure between Hirre and Severus, Andrasi came after a few minutes. She saw the two in their fixed appearance, which looked like there was no intercourse happened between them. Hirre looked at Severus secretly, and her look was not escape from the peripheral vision of the prince. Andrasi sat on the chair, holding her laptop. Her eyes shone mixed emotions, and even Hirre could not understand what she wanted to say. Severus was about to ask when Andrasi spoke. "I guess we have a problem." Andrasi scratched her back as she showed the latest news about the campaign. Sigh. "I saw it this morning. And it's not impossible because Gregor is very popular too. Maybe he looking for his supporters while I'm not doing anything." Severus replied, and here seemed like heard a misconception about what Severus wanted to say. Don't make me fool, I know that I'm the reason for that. And I could not blame you since I'm a pest on your campaign, right? Hirre crossed her arms on her chest as she vent the issue on herself. Sigh. It's not what I meant here. You already know that Gregor is not easy opponent. We see his ability and skill. So you don't have to blame yourself for my own mistake. Severus replied, telling Hirre that he lost time while his opponent was clever. Even though the other reason for that was Hirre's identity, he never used to make Hirre felt about that. Prince Severus is right. Gregor have a powerful tongue, and his pack was also known for having a luxurious life, and I'm sure he using his people tongue gain more popularity while Hirre is now bashing by the other. Androssian suddenly spoke, and the other two turned taciturn. They thought that Androssi was right. And might be Gregor enjoying the moment that he was on top. I think you are right. Maybe I need to become clever too. Speaking of which, Severus replied, and before he continued, he looked at Hirre and added, I need your help. You are the only one who can save me. Because according to the latest news, you gained support from the people after you showed on the media last week. And I think, if you used your name, you will gain support like what Gregor did. Hirre took a deep breath. She thought that the two were right. But she was still afraid to lose. However, for Severus and for their world, she would do anything to prove the equality and freedom to their world. Don't worry. I will help you, Severus, to regain your supporters. I'll call my grandpa to help us for financial while I'm still in training. Hirre said, and she threw her gaze at the laptop screen. She read the positive and negative comments about her, but she knew what was right. She thought that if she used her wealth, she and Severus could gain support, and if her mate won against Gregor, her dream world would be sprouts like a new blossom flower in the field. Hirre nodded her head as she finally made up her mind. The future suddenly vision in her mind. Hirre, you can do it. You will be Severus' crying shoulder for now. I wish that you both toast the cookies. Androssi said as she added, she smiled sweetly, don't worry, I will pursue your dream for a while that you are not present. I will use human law to gain peace here in my pack. And anything I learned from this will be applied to the every sectors of your pack. Hirre was stunned as she heard Androssi's proposal. She could not believe that there was a people that took their time to believe her. She was almost cried, but then she remembered about the Lycan's identity. She looked at nowhere as she recalled their battle. What's wrong here? Severus' voice echoed inside her ears that made her stop thinking. And when her conscience was back, she saw Severus's face 5 centimeters away from her. She knitted her eyebrows and slapped Severus's forehead lightly. What's wrong? Severus asked again. I'm just thinking about the Lycan I encountered. I think there was something wrong to them since I smelled bad on their body. Hirre said as she thought about the Lycan. What do you mean? Androssi asked, wondering. Rotten blood. Their blood smell like shit. Severus replied, and Androssi was shocked about what she heard. You mean, their blood? But how this can be happen? As far as I know, rotten blood was just a myth. And it was impossible to have that kind of smell since their mother pack, which was Desdemonian, was now ghosting the world. Androssi was still stunned as she really put in shock. So you mean, Desdemonian pack is now showing themselves? Hirre asked as she looked at Androssi, who seriously sitting on the chair. I think there is a main reason why they are showing now. but I could not find any questions to them since they killed themselves every time we are nearly to catch them. I think they are the suicide armies that meant to die for their pack," Severus added, and Hirre took a deep breath. She clasped her hands and thought about the Desdemonian pack. "I guess they are here because the heir of Vermont's family is now revealed. That's why they are always chasing me everywhere I go to lead me to death." Hirre thought about the enemy's intention. Because according to her grandpa, the Desdemonian pack leader was the great enemy of the witches. And she thought that the main reason of their existence was to drive the witches to their extinction. But why? "Prince, we need to conduct research about then enemies that you encountered. I will send you the origin of those packs and I will entrust you the investigation since we are lack of equipments and people to do that here," Andrasi said, and Severus agreed with her. "I have their body and I already have their specimen. Just give me their origin so I could easily distinguish their bloodline," Severus replied. "That's good," Andrasi happily spoke as she looked for the documents about the origins of the Desdemonian pack. And when she saw them, she quickly gave to the prince. This are the documents showing their possible origin. But I don't know if they are legit because it's all about others' hearsay." Andrasi stretched her arm, holding a papers, and Severus quickly received it. Here's POV. "I could not imagine how the Desdemonian pack suddenly appeared and they were chasing me to death. And when Andrasi gave the possible identity of the enemy, I could not wait to know them as soon as possible. Hirre, I wanted you to be safe always. You need to have a private training while the enemies are still unknown." Severus's voice made me to bring back to conscious. He looked at me sweetly and I felt better as I heard that. "Yeah. Actually I told it to my grandpa recently. Anyway. Thank you for saving me. If you are not there, maybe I was now dead." I thickened my face as I say sorry to him. For sure he was laughing at me right now secretly since I didn't it before. Severus's POV. "I could not wait to know the person behind the tragic event around our world. And who might be that, their soul were now walking through hell." And while Andrasi looking for the documents, I saw the piece of worries and fear in the eyes of my mate. I could sense her wolf trying to be brave, and I guess she was planning to use her wealth to find the unknown enemy. "Hirre, are you okay?" I mind link her so Andrasi would never knew what we talking about. And Hirre looked at me, but her eyes were filled with uneasiness. I don't know if I have the right to say this, but I think I'm not okay. All these days that passed, there are many things happened and I don't know who is the enemy and who are not. I'm afraid that one day, the enemies turned back and ruin again the lives of our people we protected. Hirre was emotionally replied me. I felt her concern to her pack and the outside. I took a deep breath as I heard her. I looked at Hirre and I saw on her face the worry that painted on her face. I knew she was thinking about the unknown enemies. And I felt her situation. She was now in the middle of the imperfect world surrounded by the unfair laws and threat. "Don't worry Hirre. I'll be here for you. I'll try to find out their origin. And if I successfully made it, I will do my best to bring them to jail," I added, and finally, I saw a brief smile on her face. I moved closer to her, trying to comfort her even for a few minutes. She looked at me slowly and gives me a warm smile that scorched my soul deep inside my heart. This is the documents. Please take a look for it." Andrasi suddenly interrupted our intimate moment when she spoke. I looked at her and took the documents from her. I took a glance on it before I closed it again. Andrasi, I will never stay here for a long time because I will take investigation about this documents. I said because I was planning to know everything about the unknown enemies since Hirre's safety was in the line. It's okay. I will also do my best to help both of you. Andrasi replied, but when I was about to stand, Hirre held my hand and she looked at me. I will go with you, Hirre said, and I could not understand why she wanted to be with me this night. Why? Are you sure? But it's already late in the night. You should stay here for your safety, I replied, and since I was worried for her safety. However, she kept her eyes at me and I saw her pleasing aura. I want to help you in investigating the enemies, she said, and I felt her sincerity in her voice. Andrasi stared at us. She waiting for my response, that's why she was still kept her mouth shut. If you want. Why not? I replied, and Hirre's pale face turned like a colorful rainbow, filled with hope as I agreed with her. What if both of you stayed here? I think it was dangerous for both of you to go this late. Our enemies are still unknown and there are tendency that they are still around us, Andrasi suggested, and I thought that she was right. Enemies were still unknown and even I could not distinguish the real enemies around us. Although I have a goal to do at my pack, but my concern for now was Hirre's safety. I looked at Hirre and she also thought about what Andrasi said recently. She clenched my hands and nodded her head. Is she agreed to Andrasi or she still want us to move away? I knitted my eyebrows and seemed like she figured out what I wanted to say. What's your plan? She asked me, and it really corners me at this moment. What is yours? That's mine. Puzzled her too. I think she is right. Let this night pass and we can go back home tomorrow morning. And like what I read from her eyes, she wanted her safety. I nodded my head and sat back on my chair. If you wish, I whispered on her ears. And after a few moments, Andrasi went out on the room. Hirre and I left again and I felt free to say everything I wanted to know. I took a deep breath as I heard her. I looked at Hirre and I saw on her face the worry that painted on her face. I knew she was thinking about the unknown enemies. And I felt her situation. She was now in the middle of the imperfect world, surrounded by the unfair laws and threat. Don't worry, Hirre. I'll be here for you. I'll try to find out their origin. And if I successfully made it, I will do my best to bring them to jail, I added, and finally, I saw a brief smile on her face. I moved closer to her, trying to comfort her even for a few minutes. She looked at me slowly and gives me a warm smile that scorched my soul deep inside my heart. This is the documents. Please take a look for it. Andrasi suddenly interrupted our intimate moment when she spoke. I looked at her and took the documents from her hand. I took a glance on it before I closed it again after viewing some sort of pages. Andrasi, I will never stay here for a long time because I will take investigation about this documents, I said, because I was planning to know everything about the unknown enemies since Hirre's safety was in the line. It's okay. I will also do my best to help both of you, Andrasi replied, but when I was about to stand, Hirre held my hand and she looked at me. I will go with you, Hirre said, and I could not understand why she wanted to be with me this night. Why? Are you sure? But it's already late in the night. You should stay here for your safety, I replied, and since I was worried for her safety. However, she kept her eyes at me and I saw her pleasing aura. "I want to help you in investigating the enemies," she said, and I felt her sincerity in her voice. Andrasi stared at us. She waiting for my response, that's why she was still kept her mouth shut. "If you want. Why not?" I replied, and Hirre's pale face turned like a colorful rainbow, filled with hope as I agreed with her. What if both of you stayed here? I think it was dangerous for both of you to go this late. Our enemies are still unknown and there are tendency that they are still around us," Andrasi suggested, and I thought that she was right. Enemies were still unknown and even I could not distinguish the real enemies around us. Although I have a goal to do at my pack, but my concern for now was Hirre's safety. I looked at Hirre and she also thought about what Andrasi said recently. She clenched my hands and nodded her head. Is she agreed to Andrasi or she still want us to move away? I knitted my eyebrows and seemed like she figured out what I wanted to say. "What's your plan?" she asked me, and it really corners me at this moment. "What is yours, that's mine." It puzzled her too. I think she is right. Let this night pass and we can go back home tomorrow morning. And like what I read from her eyes, she wanted her safety. I nodded my head and sat back on my chair. "If you wish," I whispered on her ears, and after a few moments, Andrasi went out on the room. Hirre and I left again inside the room, and now, I feel free to say everything I wanted to know. Can we talk?" I tilted my head down as I asked. "What's that?" Her voice echoed inside my ear and it made me look at her. "Are you willing to help me despite of the things we suffer as for today?" I added before I looked at her eyes directly. "Yeah. No matter what happen I will support. But before that, I want your help," she replied seriously. "Please train me how to fight and accompany men for finding a great witchcrafter. I wanted to learn magic," she added, and I felt her willingness to do that things. "If that is your plan, I will send my beta to the Holoxian tribe. They are known for the best witchcrafter. But, I can't promise that he will receive approval for our intent," I said hopelessly. Because even if I told her about the Holoxian, I knew how much they hate werewolves for killing their bloodline. "Why?" Hirre asked me, and I felt the curiosity that embraced her at that moment. "Because they hate werewolves. And they are now hiding their identity long time ago after their clans are brutally killed by werewolves. But they are the only one that may help you in your problem." After telling Hirre about the Holoxian dark story, I felt her empathy toward the Holoxian. Might be it because her grandma was also killed by werewolves, so she felt how heartbreaking story I told to her. "So if is the case, why don't we go there?" she bravely added. "It's dangerous. I will send first my beta with my armies to find their location since it's hard to find them. And if they know where they are, we can send them a request," I suggested, but I felt that Hirre could not wait not to see the Halloween. What if Claire know where they are? She become my best friend for almost a years that we are been together. She confessed me about the clan that she belong. But she never told me about her identity. So what if she know them? When Hirre suddenly thought about Claire, I hesitated to agree with, since Claire hates us for losing her power. And I'm sure, she would never help Hirre for her problem. I hope that I was wrong in guessing. "Severus, tomorrow, early in the morning, we will go back to the pack. We will convince Claire to side with us." Hirre interrupted my thought and I just nodded my head as agreement, even though there was a capability that Claire would ignore us. Knock. Knock. The door knocked twice. Hirre looked at me. I stood to unlock the door and I saw Andrasi holding a key. I widened my eyes as I guessed what she planned to do. Here's POV. I was sitting alone on the bed where Andrasi provided for me. It was not too big but it could accommodate 2 people. Severus was not here because he was talking with his Gamma and Beta about the specimen that they secretly gathered on the battle. But I'm sure, not only the specimen was his purpose. And no matter what it was, I didn't know. And while they were looking for the identity of the unknown enemies, I was thinking about the plan that I would execute. I saw the things I heard from Severus and my grandfather while I'm alone. I was sure that the Desdemonian pack and the sudden appearance of the enemies and rouges they were connected to each other. And because Haloxian was now unknown like the Desdemonian pack, I didn't know how do I manage to find their location. Because one of them was become our great enemy and the other would help me to know the root of all evil. And after a moment of pause, I laid on my bed. I closed my eyes and felt the coldness of the breeze. It was late at night but my eyes still opened wide. Because even though I received complimentary and adore to the people in social media, I was not contented. I felt that there was a gap that trying to sink in my mind to feel this stressful life. I looked up the ceiling, thinking about my plan. Suddenly, I heard my wolf wanted to talk to me. "Why? Are you trying to disturb me again?" I asked her. Sigh. "No. I want to accompany you to your problem. I feel your sadness and I can't take a rest while you bothered me by your piece of cake problem," Harsha said, and I felt her arrogant attitude for saying that. Then? I coldly reacted and I heard her taking a deep sigh. "Don't be Hellcat. We are tired fighting enemies recently but you still thinking another problem. Why don't we take a rest? It's not hard to do, right?" she said, and I felt pity for her. However, we both know that we faced a problem that not allowed us to sleep. I know, but we are facing the great enemy that even ourselves couldn't defeat. We are in the middle of the 2 giant rock hitting each other that only us can stop them. I replied and Harsha suddenly turned taciturn. But I knew that she was thinking about what I say. "Here, we are granddaughter of a billionaire. Why don't we use our wealth to execute the plan you planning easily?" Harsha's words might be true. But even I was a heir of a billionaire, I could not use it because I was overpowered by the people's opinions. I'm afraid to use the wealth that I didn't achieve by hard work. "You are right. But I can't." My voice became low as I say that words. There was a gap that trying to block my willingness to do a most easy way. "Come on here. We need to do everything. Severus is now in the edge of the ravine. Gregor may defeat him in the election and you are the one that's able to help him. So, why don't you use our wealth? Don't feel any hesitation about that. It is for the sake of the people we love," Harsha retorted, and I really felt my ignorance toward her approach to me. I muttered as I took a deep sigh. I clear my throat as I spoke. "You are right, Harsha. But what if I fail?" I replied, giving up myself. I did not mean to lost hope but. However, before I ended up my words, Harsha spoke in sudden. She interrupted me with her words. "No but. Don't be stupid here. It's not the attitude of alpha female. Use your brain." My ego hurts as I heard her. She looked like a real friend, not a wolf inside me every time she advised me. I sat again, bending my knees together, placing my chin on the top of it. "Sorry. I become stupid again," I said, lowering my voice and pride. I knew Harsha would expect that words from me, but I didn't care. The important was I said sorry for being ignorant. Sigh. "Sorry again. And again." She sighed deeply, and I could not blame her. Suddenly, I heard footsteps coming toward the door. I knew he was Severus, since Andrasi gave us a common room to stay with. I didn't know what on earth she thinking about why she let us stayed in the same room. But it was not a matter, since their pack was not too big to provide room in every guess. But even Severus was still outside the room. His intoxicating smell really made me feel so good. And when he stepped in, I let him to take a first move. "Why aren't you sleeping?" Severus's voice made me raise my head to look up him. He was standing next to our bed, looking at me with passionate look. He was really a Adonis from head to toe, but I didn't show any affection when I looked at him. "I can't sleep." Only few words escaped on my mouth after I thought about the things that Harsha said to me. "Don't worry here, everything is going fine. I received a sort of information, and there are many people that still believed in me. Actually, they are hoping that I will be the next king," he said, and I felt hope toward his words. He sat on his bed as he kept on talking with me. "That's good to hear. But it's not enough. Gregor is wealthy and famous. We need to overpower his deeds so we can get more support than he can actually get," I said while putting my feet on the floor. "Don't worry about that. I sent my Gamma and Beta to seek help of the merchants and some higher family in every pack. I hope that they will guarantee my offer," Severus replied while taking off his shoes. I hope that we will succeed," I stuttered as I saw again his body as he took off his shirt too. I never thought that he was so hot that even my soul could melt. His broad shoulder, that bounty with firm muscles and fine hairs. "SH to the power of T." Harsha muttered inside me, and I realized that I stuck my eyesight at his muscular tan body. "Take a rest here," Severus suddenly spoke, and I felt shame because he was now in my front, half naked, telling me to take rest. I nodded my head as I agreed and averted my gaze away from him. Because every time I looked at him, my surrounding froze itself. "Good night." His voice fading, and when I tried to give him a look, he was laying on his bed not too far from mine. After seeing him napping, I laid back to my bed. I felt comfort for a moment that he was in our room. Tick. Tack. Tick. The wall clock tickled, but even I was laying comfortable on the soft bed, I could not stop myself not to think about the things I need to do. Because my time was too short to do multiple things with only one body. Time was too fast, but I was still here doing nothing. I closed my eyes and felt the power inside me. I didn't want to live like a stupid piece of shit. I would help him to win, and we both conquered the world. Harsha was right. I'm a billionaire and I could make things easier. All I need was to use my brain and don't be stupid anymore. Third-person POV. Severus and Hirre packed their things before the sunrise. They were going somewhere else where the Holoxian tribe could be seen. Even they looked like looking needle in the hay. Hirre and Severus were decided to take risk to help Hirre. "Are you done?" Severus spoke as he passed by Hirre's bed. He was already prepared himself, waiting Hirre to come with him. "Yeah. Anyway, I will tell Andrasi our plan before we go. Go to your car first, I'll follow you later." Hirre replied as she prepared herself to walk away. "Okay. I'll wait you," Severus added, and he walked out from the room. After Severus left the Four Corners room, Hirre went to Andrassi's office where Andrassi stayed. But before she reached the office, not too far from their room, she met Andrassi. "Did you sleep better?" Andrassi asked meaningfully, giving Hirre a smirk. She was taking a cigar as she inclined on the wall, waiting Hirre to come closer. "Sigh. Why yeah," Hirre replied, and she halted her steps next to Andrassi. "Are you going home this early?" Andrassi asked as she took a glacé at Hirre. "Yes. Severus and I plan to find Holoxian tribe. And we will go there as soon as possible. I need to learn how to cast magic," Hirre replied as she took Andrassi's cigar and took a sip on its filter. "May Goddess help you. Holoxian are the tribe that hates werewolves like us. You need to stay alert here. They are not good enemy because they are better in casting magic." Andrassi tapped Hirre's shoulder as she gave a warn. "I know it. Don't worry, I will never let my guard down. And for sure they will never act differ if they don't feel any threat of danger from us." Hirre seriously spoke, and she threw away the cigar on the ground and stepped on it. Andrassi was shocked, but she just shrugged her shoulder as she saw her cigar turned into ashes. "Hope your plan goes well," Andrassi added as she took another cigar inside her pocket. Hirre smiled and walked away. After a moment of pause, Hirre reached the parking lot. Severus waiting her to come. "Let's go," Hirre said, and Severus opened the door immediately. They took the way toward the Tyranny Pack, because they were going to seek help with Claire. "Are you sure you will ask Claire for help?" Severus asked Hirre. In the tone of his voice, he felt hesitation toward Claire even though they were talked it last night. "Sigh. Let me do it. We talked about that, right? So you don't have to worry about." "I know, Holoxian and Claire's pieces of identity are connected," Hirre seriously said to remove the tense between them. "Pardon?" Severus muttered. Hirre shook her head as she heard the low tone of her mate. Time flies, and their atmosphere was turned silent until they reached the road which the battlefield that Hirre encountered was been held. "Stop," Hirre shouted, and it made Severus to hit the brake. "Why?" Severus asked, wondering as he threw his gaze at Hirre, who now staring outside the window. "Wait a minute. I need to take a look on my car," Hirre said, and it made Severus knitted his eyebrows. Hirre didn't wait Severus to speak, and she ran immediately toward her car that's still hanging on the huge tree. Severus followed Hirre outside, and as he saw his mate running toward the car. At that moment, Hirre scanned the area. And because it was already morning and the dark forest was now have a glimpse of lights, she finally saw the parts of her cars around the tree while it banging up on it. She walked around it, but the surrounding was clear. There were no dead bodies around, but just a dry blood stain on the dirty forest floor. "What are you doing?" Severus asked as he reached Hirre's location. He was wondering why Hirre suddenly asked to stop on the place that could bring back her to a nightmare. Hirre looked back to face Severus and replied, "I'm looking for evidence. I need to get information about the werewolves that attacked me last night. And also, I'm looking for my car key," Hirre replied, which made Severus nodded his head. "I will help you. But if you can't see anything, I have their bodies. You can go to my laboratory to check them personally," Severus said calmly as he gave Hirre a brief sweet smile. Then, Please bring back my car. I have something to get there." Hirre pointed the car up on the tree. She waited another moment of pause and Severus started on the tree to hit the car out on the branches where it stuck. Thud. The car slammed on the ground heavily and it followed by Severus who perfectly stood on the car roof. Hirre didn't mind Severus who flirting her by his tantalizing eyes. She immediately took of the dented car door and it successfully flew toward the ground. She looking for something and she almost tore every parts of the car but she looked so irritated. "Is this you looking for?" Severus said in sudden, holding a car key while giving his mate a annoying smile. Hirre stopped what she doing and rolled her eyes. "Give it to me," Hirre growled as she saw the key on Severus's hand. "Kiki. Catch it," Severus replied as he threw away the key backward. "Shit," Hirre muttered as she followed the direction of the key, faster than in lighting. And she perfectly caught the key without any hardships. "What the? How could Hirre do that?" Severus was put in shock as he saw how Hirre reacted toward the key. And even Hirre was also surprised as she caught the key by her bare hands. She looked at Severus, widened her eyes and her tongue refused to say words for a moment of pause. Severus quickly jumped from the car to ask Hirre. And he witnessed how Hirre become different than before. "Hirre. Are you okay? What's your feeling right now?" Severus asked, worrying. Because he knew that if that ability was because of Hirre's witch blood, it could make Hirre's body to clash and he worried about that even though he witnessed a very amazing stunt from her. Hirre. Are you okay?" Severus asked again when Hirre didn't answer him. He felt worried so he tapped Hirre's right cheek. And when Severus was about to slap Hirre, the other party blinked her eyes. Severus slapped his forehead instead of Hirre because he was thankful because Hirre was still okay. Did you see that?" Hirre asked, confusing. She was trembled in shock and amazement, which differ from Severus' reaction. "I see. And I really don't know if I would be happy or worry about that. I hope Goddess Grace will be into you," Severus muttered and it made Hirre to shake her head. "Let's forget about that. Let's go. I have something to do," Hirre said and she put the key inside her pocket and walked first toward the car. But even she showed braveness, she was still thinking about the things that suddenly happened at her. Here's POV. Flash. Whoosh. When Severus threw the key of my very first cars, I felt my feet automatically ran toward the direction where the key flee. And how miraculous when I touched the key handle without any hardship. And even I tried to think what happened, I could not believe on what I did. I widened my eyes in surprise and I never thought that Severus was asking me the same questions twice. But instead of saying okay, I asked him if he saw what I did. And he say yes, but there was something that suddenly appeared on his face, the state of being worried about me. I suddenly remembered that if there was something happens on me strangely and I could not handle that, my body would clash and could bring me to the endless slumber. And before we talked about that, I told Severus to continue our journey back to my pack. And he followed me without any words to say. After 30 minutes, we reached the Tyranny Pack and we didn't talk about the strange things that happened on me until we get off the car. And from afar, I saw my uncle talking to our armies. I continued walking toward them and when the armies saw me, they bowed their head before I passed by. Here. You're here. Uncle immediately greeted me with embrace as he saw me coming. Uncle, where is Grandpa? I asked when the maids came rushing to take my bag. "He is in the office of the elders. They have a meeting today," he replied to me as he looked at me. I scanned the area and I realized that there were plenty of cars around and I thought that they were owned by the elders. And I felt blessed because it would be a perfect timing to get information and help from the elders and my grandfather. Because I knew that they have a knowledge about the Holoxian tribe and the Desdemonian clans that was still unknown to me. "Uncle, Prince, I have something to do. I will go ahead," I interrupted them when I saw them greeting each other. And when I was about to walk away, I felt Severus's hand clenching my wrist as he asked me by mind link, "Where are you going?" I looked at his eyes before I replied, "I will seek information to the elders. I'll come back later. Please go ahead to the conference room. I will tell you everything I gathered later." He nodded his head and he took his hand on me. "Uncle, I'll go ahead," I repeated and I walked away toward the massive entrance door. I walked calmly toward the hallway. And direction that my eyesight could reach, the armies scattered around. And I guessed, my grandfather tightened the security after the incident of hooligans' secret attack. And they give me respect every time I walked near them. Even I hates this kind of treatment. I could blame them since I was alpha female and the only heir of the billionaire. I took the private elevator to reach the 10th floor of our building. I calmed my throat and waited another minutes before I knocked the door. And when the door opened, the security guard appeared and he greeted me. I just smiled briefly as I looked at him. He guided me toward the room and I heard the elders discussing about something. Suddenly Beta James came and he greeted me very politely. "Is the meeting just starting or ended now?" I asked James since he was already here before I entered. "I guess they already talked about something but I don't know if they are finished or not. Anyway, do you have an important thing to say in the meeting?" he asked me, and since he was the only personnel that could enter the meeting room, I decided to tell at him my intent. And I'm sure that my grandfather would never ignore me. "Yes, I have something to ask to all of them. And please tell to Mr. Vermont that I want to talk all the elders about the important thing that I need to know," I replied, and he nodded his head. "Ms. Hillary, please wait me here. I will tell to Mr. Vermont that you are here," he said politely before he walked toward the meeting room. I sat on the couch, waiting James to come back. After a while, I heard footsteps coming and I smelled the scent of my grandpa. "Oh, honey. Thanks goddess you are now here." He was about to cry but I stood and embraced him as my greetings. "Thank you grandpa. Don't worry about me, I can handle myself from now on," I replied as we departed from each other. Sigh. I know. But I'm still worried about you. You are the only one I have and I can't imagine the life if you will gone too," Grandpa stated, and my heart melted as I heard his very touching words. "I'll swear to you that I will be okay always." I held his hands and he looked at me with watery eyes. I knew he was worried about me since I encountered the group of hooligans without any help of other. And wrong move I did would send me to my grave. "Honey, I thought that you want to ask the elders." "What's that?" And before I forget, Grandpa asked me. Yes, about that. I have to clear something from you and the elders." I clear my throat as I say my intent. My grandpa knitted his eyebrows as he heard me. And I'm sure that he was willing to hear what I'm going to ask. "Come in," he said as he guided me toward the another oak door. I smiled briefly and acted normal since I didn't want to appear stupid in the front of the elders. Please welcome my very own granddaughter, Hirre Monreal, Vermont. Grandpa caught the attention of the 10-20 elders and they looked at me with smiled. They stood and I greeted them politely since they were all respected elders. We shook hands before Grandpa told them my intention why I'm here. I sat on the very end of the long table to see them entirely. Elders. My granddaughter is here to seek out help. I hope that you will be able to connect with her. Grandpa said and I cleared my throat as I spoke. Good morning everyone. I know that all of you know my real identity and since we are all in the same pack, I want cooperation to all of you. I bravely spoke out. The elders as well as my grandfather looked at me, waiting for my words. Sorry for interrupting the meeting but I want to ask all of you about the Holoxian tribe. Is anyone else here know their background? I asked bravely since my goal was to find them. I scanned the area and they were looking at each other. I waited for a moment of pause until one of the 20 elders stood. He was Elder Icarus, the third in command of armies before. I saw a glimpse of hope as I saw him standing and begun to speak out. In almost 4 decades that I served this pack, I heard about them but it was just a hearsay. But according to my co-armies before, they encountered the numbers of Hallex before. But all of them were now died so I don't have proof where they could find. The hope that I felt suddenly turned dim as I heard Elder Icarus' story. I just nodded my head and waited another story but deep inside the disappointment begun to make me feel not okay. I think they are still in the Caspia village. Because that village is now forbidden because of many history of dark magic. Another elder spoke and I threw my gaze at him. Where is the location of Caspia village? I asked in sudden because I wanted to take risk even in the smallest hope that I have. In the middle of the dark forest of Mount Hulka, he replied, and I felt my heart beat so fast. There was something inside me that seemed like could not wait to reach that place. But that place is very dangerous. Only allowed people can enter the forest because of illusion that magic user place around the Mount Hulka. They are great in using dark magic so no one can attempt to get out there even they are strong werewolf or pack armies. He added and shrugged my eyebrows as I heard that. I could not believe that there was a kind of story that's so scary than I thought. I looked at my grandpa. I saw uneasiness at his eyes as he looked at me. I averted my gaze away from him and let the elders to discuss about the things that he knew. Suddenly, while I was busy talking with them, I heard someone calling me by mind link. Yes? I asked wondering. I have talked with Claire. She know where they are. Severus was in the line and I was stunned as I heard him. Here's POV. After I received mind link from Severus, I immediately cut the meeting I have with the elders. Because I felt that the information that I gained with them was just a hearsay and no one told me the exact location and their real identity. Thanks for the information. I think it's enough for me to hear out your story about Hallex. I spoke and the twitching of their eyebrows were not escape from my eyesight. I knew they were thinking about the purpose why I'm looking for them. Anyway, Miss Hillary. Why are you looking for the mortal enemy of our clans? Is this because you are one of them? One elder asked and it made me knitted my eyebrows. I looked at him, timid. I knew that there was someone who would ask me this and I really felt uneasy since they were the elders. Why this old fart asking me in sudden? Is he wanted to emphasize my blood witch? And if it was his goal, then I did not care. I have to remove tense for the sake of much important thing than his opinion. And when I was about to ignore him, another man spoke and I felt annoyed by their ugly faces. Third Elder Siwa is right. Haloxian is our enemy, even they are now gone. They are still witches and we need to exterminate them. Haloxian or not, they must die. Another stupid old fart seconded the motion. He was raising his eyebrow abnormally as he crossed his arms in the front of his chest. I really don't know why they were kept on telling me that witches was our enemy if they were the one who wanted to kill them all along. Are they stupid enough not to think about that? Or there was something smell fishy here, that's why they lived their life in this foolishness. Miss Hillary. Don't dare to go there. They are not safe for you. Another added, when he read my intention. And their voices echoed inside my ears when they talked in each other. I could not talk, instead I just let them to throw twisted ideology in each other. Pardon. But I think my granddaughter have another meeting with the prince. Fortunately, Grandpa saved me from his questions. I averted my gaze away from the third elder who looking at me like a disgusting one. I really don't know why he acting like this. And no matter what he looked down me, I knew it was because I am a witch. And I realized that even I was the perfect woman in everything. There was people that still hates me because of the single side that I have. And the only way how to remove the eyes that made me felt that way was to know the root of this stupidity and brought equality to everyone. I stood and give them a brief smile. Thank you for this moment. I briefly spoke and left the room without looking back. When I reached the door, James opened the door and asked me, "What's now?" "Nothing," I seriously said and exited the room. He shook his head and I saw it from my peripheral vision. I immediately took the elevator down to first floor. I silently walked toward the conference room where Severus waiting for me. Severus. I mind-linked him as I walked toward them. "Here, where are you?" he replied, and I fastened my steps. The security guards standing on the door and I ordered them to open it. And when I entered the conference, I saw Claire sitting with Severus. Only the glass wall was their barrier. I quickly went to them and Severus guided me to sit down. "Claire. Are you still fine?" I asked her as she saw her body that too far from before after losing her power. I felt pity toward her as I saw her pale face. She did not talk that she looked at me with watery eyes. I could not looked at her this too long. She was become my best friend for almost a years and even she have a mistake because of love. I could not deny myself how I cared about her. "Claire. Don't worry. I'm not here to blame you again. I'm here." However, before I ended my words, she suddenly spoke, at stuttering in her voice. "Why you're looking for the Alex, right?" I looked at Severus as I heard what Claire said, and I quickly looked at her back and nodded my head. Does it mean, Severus ask you about that?" I asked, hoping that she would help me for that. "Yeah," she briefly replied, swiping the tears in her eyes. I did not know why she acting like this, but for sure, it was because of her family there. "See, can you help me?" I bravely asked. "And how thankful I am," as she nodded her head. "Thank you, Claire," I shouted for joy, wearing a smile on my face. "I will help you, but can you promise that you will left me there once we found them? My relatives are gone but my bloodline is still there. So please, let me be with them," she said, lowering her voice. I felt sadness and hope in her face and I felt pity toward her. "Jay, just help me. And I will help you," I swore to her. Because I also want her to go back to her clan to live peaceful without the threat of the werewolves around her. Really? Why, you will give me freedom?" she trembling as she spoke again. I saw her hands shaking uncontrollable as she touched the glass wall between us. "Yeah. I will," I added, giving her my warm smile. I saw Claire crying and her tears made me feel sad. She looked like a bird that wanted to free from her cage to feel the nature around her. I felt more pity as she started to beg for her freedom. I looked at Severus, who tilted his head down to the floor. I knew he did not want to see Claire that situation. I looked back at Claire, who now crying heavily. I thought that it's better to give her freedom. I thought that she was a real human, that craving for a real family. And before I swallowed by the sadness and grief, I swayed the topic and begun to ask her help. Can you please guide me to the Caspia village?" I asked her, which made her stop crying. "See Caspia village?" I saw the estate of being surprised on her eyes as she asked me clearly about the Caspia village. "Yes, because the elders told me that the Holoxian dwell their lives in Mount Ulka, where the Caspia village located," I replied, and it made Claire shook her head in disapproval. "Mount Ulka is now gone. It's been invaded and destroyed by the werewolves," Claire angrily growled as she slammed the table on her front. I was surprised on her reaction and I thought about the story of the elders, and I'm really put in puzzlement when I thread their stories. Who among them telling the truth? Who is the real enemy? Many questions suddenly appeared in my mind. I guessed my head would burst as if I did not answer them as soon as possible. And even Severus looked at us as he heard Claire slamming the table. "So what do you mean about that?" I asked her confusingly. "My clans ran away for their lives after the group of unknown werewolf attacked us. And it was the main reason why I'm here." Claire began to speak out and I felt the anger inside her heart as she said that words. "So you mean there are other people invaded that village?" I asked to ensure everything. "Yes. And I want that place turned back to my people," she retorted, and I saw the eagerness on her eyes. "Don't worry about that, Claire. If I successfully made my plan, I will help our bloodline to gain the lands that they must have. I'm a witch like you, Claire. So I will protected them like how I protected my pack," I calmly said, and I realized that Claire was empty-minded about the things and issues that happened outside the detention jail. "What? Why, you are witch?" Claire could not believe on what I revealed. She widened her eyes and she looked at me amazingly. "Yeah. Sorry because you didn't know it. But it almost 3 weeks since my identity exposed. And like you, people hates me. But fortunately, I didn't show any weakness since I want prove them something in the next future," I replied, and Severus tapped my shoulder. "Yes, Claire. Here faced the same thing that you encountered before. And we both hope your cooperation to make changes to our world. Because we felt that there was something wrong that's still happening around us. And we need your help for the sake of our world." Severus interrupted us. Claire nodded her head and thought about Severus' words. "I'm willing to help for our future and find the real enemy of this world," Claire bravely muttered, and I felt happiness as she said that. And even though I could not see the outcome, I already felt the victory with those people who believe and trusted me. Claire's POV. "Why are you here?" I spoke with nonchalant expression as I saw the prince sitting in my front. I didn't looked at him for a long time since I hates them a lot. Because they were the main reason why I'm here, prisoned for almost a year and no one visit me rather than that jerk Sion and the guards who giving me food. But at this time, the prince was here, and I'm sure he have a very important thing to say. And I didn't care about that like how I did not care for them, especially to hear. Claire. Severus replied, lowering his voice as he looked at me with serious eyes. He stared at me without any expression rather than his cold eyes. "What are you doing here?" I said again as I looked at him with deadly stare. But he was still looking at me without any trace of anger or any negative thoughts about my attitude toward him. "I don't know if I have a chance to tell you this, but I think we need you," Severus said, and I was surprised as I heard him. "Kiki." I smirked and I laughed toward his joke. No, it's not a joke for him, but for me, yes. Everything's they would say to was just a joke for me. "Help? Me? Are you stupid?" I shook my head as I say that words. "Yes, Claire. We need you. Because you are the only one that will tell us where was the Hyloxian." He added that made me knitted my eyebrows. "What you want for them? Are you going to send armies and kill them too?" I growled when I heard that he was looking for Hyloxian. "It's not we want. It's Hirre who needed their help. Hirre wanted to see them because they are the only one that may helped her to learn casting magic," Severus said, and I was surprised when I knew that Hirre needs Hyloxian magic. And I thought that Severus just using Hirre to exterminate the remaining Hyloxian no matter where they were now. "Don't fool me, Prince Severus." "Yes, I'm stupid, but don't fool me." I glared at him as I retorted. "I'm not fooling you, Claire. I'm telling the truth. And Hirre's situation is now critical. She is now in danger if she did not train herself how to handle the magic inside her," he said, emphasizing Hirre's situation. "Magic? What the hell are you saying? Are you out of your mind?" I asked, wondering, telling him how stupid he was to say that words about Hirre. I knew Hirre was just normal werewolf before and now a billionaire heir. And now Severus saying that Hirre have a magic inside her. How ridiculous to hear that stupidity. Boo wahaha. So funny, Severus. How funny waha. I laughed instead of believing him. Might be because I was swallowed by my anger and pride. "Please believe in me. Hirre needs you. And she was here to ask your help. Our intention is for the goodness of our world, and we need you to be part of our goal," he said, and I felt his sincerity as I heard the same words from him. "Claire. We need your help. Hirre needs you because you are the one that can tell her where the Hyloxian tribe hiding," he added. Severus's voice echoed inside me. And even I didn't want to see him in this situation. I wanted to hear what he going to say. I was willing to know what was their reason. And also, I wanted to know if my bloodline was still alive or not. Then, if I do believe in you, how can I be sure that you are telling the truth? I asked him to know if he was serious on what he wanted to say. Because when I heard about the witch, I was concerned about Hirre. Having that blood was not easy, even we have a power to control the things surrounded us. "Here will come her and she will say the same thing I said to you. Because we really needs you. I know that you also want to free from this world and go back to your clans. And we are willing to do everything so you can be with them," he said, and I felt my heart beat uncontrollably as he say that words. I clear my throat as I spoke. "Freedom? You will help to be with them? I stuttered like a stupid piece of shit. Yes. We, here want to give you freedom. And the only way you can do to get that is to help us finding the exact location of the Holoxian. He replied, and my eyes get widened. I did not know if he was truly say the truth, but I need to think smart. Oh, okay. I will help you. But in one condition. I said, and I saw the narrowing of Severus's eyes as I told him about my condition. I need to get out from here before I help you. I added, and he looked at me seriously. Let's wait here. I will contact her first. But if you want that condition, I will agree for the sake of Hirre's power and this world. He nodded his head as he told me about his opinion. And I felt glad about that. However, I need to think better plan. No matter what happened, I need to get out from here by the use of them. Yes, it was hard for me to act naturally since I did not have power, and also, I hate them so much. I would face here seemed like I was pitiful bitch, and after that, I would show her that I'm better than her with power or not. I decided to go with them and betrayed them secretly. Actually, even me, I did not know where was my clans was now. After the werewolves killed them, from toddler to the elders. They did not show any mercy, and I saw with my naked eyes how heartless they were. They burned our home and left our place helpless. And while I'm running for my life, I swore that I would find the root of this heartless death of my bloodline. And if I get the chances to get out, I would find the way how to escape and find my clans by myself. I laughed in my mind secretly as I thought about my plan. Kiki. Let's know who is the best among us here. I muttered in myself. Claire. So what is your plan? This jerk Severus interrupted my good thoughts. I glanced at him and smiled bitterly. I think, you are right. We need to help each other for this world, and, I made up my mind, I will help you. I smiled, full of my deceitful plan, and I thought that he was happy to hear my decision. Thank you, Claire. I hope that you and Hirre will be okay after this. I know that you can be a part of our dream for this world. Severus said, and I nodded my head while I felt the victory that they made for me. Third-person POV. Whoosh. Spurts. Thud. Kill them all. The growl of the massive werewolves echoed along the entire forest. They were running toward the younger witches that ran away to save their lives. And one of them was Claire. She was running holding the piece of her clothes that tore apart when a werewolf tried to grab her. She was just a mere weak girl that helpless seeing her playmates and friends dying. Father. Her low voice echoed as she looked for help. However, when she scanned the area, her face suddenly turned into a deep sadness when she saw how her father hit her mother. She halted her steps as she looked at them with pale expression. She slowly took off her hands away from her messed clothes while her tears flowed down her cheeks. Mom?" she whispered in the dusty air while she let the surrounded made her deaf. She was really put in the depth trauma and she could not notice the coming of the werewolf behind her. At #_and# But before she was killed by the wolves, he mother saved her by her full strength. And even she was filled with bruises because of his father's fist, she still cared for her only daughter Claire. Thud. The wolves dragged on the ground. Claire immediately ran when her conscious back. And she ran toward her mother to give help. "Claire, run!" her mother shouted, but she didn't care. Because all she wanted was to save her mother from his father that not too far from the werewolf that exterminate their bloodline. She shook her hands and held her mother's hand. Please Mom, live for me," she cried as she kept on clenching the hand of her pitiful mother. "Claire. Save yourself. I will protect you," her mother replied, crying heavily, but she did not care. For the very young age of her, only thing she knew was her mother's life and their safety, since the scream and the horrifying sounds of the battle was still roaring around. "And no Mom. Please. And no. Don't leave me," she trembling as she begged for her mother's lives, but her mother seemed like ready to give up her life for the safety of her daughter. "Sorry honey. But I think, Mama can't live this for too long. You need to protect yourself, to find the people who killed our clans. Go. And save yourself." Her mother pushed her away and her thin small body slammed on the ground. Her teary eyes could not open very well and she felt little fear and anger. However, before she spoke again, she felt the hard fist stroke her that caused her to drag on the ground. "Clary!" her mother shouted angrily as she saw her only daughter flew up in the air and slammed on the ground. Claire slowly looked at her mother, who running for her. She saw how her mother sacrificed a lot to protect her from the hands of her father and the werewolf. She did not know how those people killed them, and her innocent mind was slowly fading like the crying of the people around her. And the last thing she saw before her eyes closed was the image of her mother, crying. And nothing more. The silence embraced her and the war stopped within her when she finally felt the coldness of the dirty ground. Claire's POV. "Mom. I woke up after an hours. And when I opened my eyes, the sadness faced me. I was laid under the hay and woods. And I'm sure it was the reason why I'm still alive. The dark surrounding and the heat of the breeze because of the burning houses faced me. I kneeled on the ground and watched the dead bodies of my clans burning like a mere trashes that needed vanished in this world. But even this nightmare faced me. There was only one person I wanted to see. And she was my mother. I hoped that she was still alive like me. I walked a distance out from the hay and scanned the area that only enlightened by the fires from the dead bodies of the Holoxians members. I slowly made steps and I felt my feet become heavier as I walked farther more. My heart did not feel any pain even I tried to. The shivering of my knees seemed like an earthquake that shook the earth. My eyes were filled of hoping that I could still see my mom alive. The deafening silence still surrounded me. I felt the cold sweat flowing down to my temple. There was something that felt like making my chest palpitate so heavy. I was speechless when my sight went directly to the place that I did not want to go. The only thing I knew at this moment was my hands clenching tightly, and even my tongue pulled out as I saw my mom, hanging up on the towering trees. I almost could not recognize her if she did not wearing the bracelet that I give to her on her birthday. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But my body could not. No. I gathered all of my strength to growl in my loudness. "I hate you. I hate all of you," I screamed, accompanied by the heavy rain that seemed like mourning with me. I kneeled on the ground and clenched the dirt that became muds when the rain kept on flowing. I swear from heaven and earth that every werewolves will experience the same thing we felt. Arg! My voice echoed all around our village. I hope that I was also dead like them rather than experiencing the same pain that I felt right now every day. I cried and cried, but it seemed worthless because of the roaring thunder and the stroke of the lightnings. I closed my eyes and let the rain brought me to slumber, hoping that the time sent me to the place where was my mom. But while I'm facing my mom, I suddenly remembered my father who chose to kill my mom rather than helping us to escape. Might be because of his real blood was a werewolf and knowing mother's identity was a disgusting thing for him. "I will kill you, father. I will kill you." And from the depth of my anger, the curse words come out. I promise that anyone that cause of this nightmare would suffer from my dark revenge. I stood and walked under the heavy rain. I did not care about the thunder, even I was just a mere child. I went through our home and fortunately, it was still fine. I entered our home that was hell for me. There was no feelings that made me okay. Just anger and revenge. And from this moment, the thing that entered my brain was the dark magic. I went to my mom's room and took the wooden chest where the dark secret of my mother hid for almost of her entire life for the sake of her husband. And even to me, she also hid this because she wanted for me the peaceful life and lived like a normal kid. But it was not a matter at all. Because she was now dead. So, I did not have any reason to live normal. I would take my revenge and searched the person behind this and made them suffer like what I wanted them to feel. The tears that recently flowed on my cheeks dried and the wide grin surfaced on my face as I took the old rose gold book which contained the dark spell and magic. "From now on, taste the revenge of the pity?" I whispered in the air and the thunder roared and it accompanied the devil laugh that I escaped from my mouth. Here's POV. "I will help you." 4 words but gives me hope when Claire spoke that. I was very happy to hear that she would be with us to find the other clan member of the Holoxian tribe. Since, according to the research that I conducted, the elders of the Holoxian tribe and their great sorcerers escaped. And they were continued the legacy to build their new home secretly. But like what the elders said, they did not know where they was. Even my grandfather was clueless after his wife passed away. "Claire. Don't worry, we will turn everything in right. Just helped us. Okay." I lowered my voice as I uttered. And I saw the tears on her eyes accompanied with smile that surfaced on her face. I felt the excitement that overshadowing her true feelings. "When we will go out?" she asked me and I smiled briefly when she said that. I felt that we would be okay after I offered her freedom. Yes, it might be hard for her to agree with me because we werewolves were the reason why she lost her power. But, I was still hoping that she would let our friendship begin again. Because we still looking for the real enemy. I looked at Severus who was waiting for us to speak out. Prince?" I raised my eyebrows as I stared at him. I guessed he caught what I wanted to say when he cleared his throat to speak. "Tomorrow. We will go tomorrow, so prepared everything we need before we go somewhere," Severus said and I nodded my head as agreement. And when I averted my gaze away from him and looked at Claire who biting her lower lips because of excitement. "Claire. Wait us tomorrow morning," I said and Claire nodded her head. And when I stood up, she raised her hand and touched the semi-transparent wall between us before she slowly stood to get closer to me. "Here. I'll wait you," she added and I saw her pretty face. Her skinny body that too far from her appearance before made me looked at her with mercy. "Yeah. See you. Anyway. Goodbye," I said before Severus and I went out the detention jail. "Here. Are you sure that you will give her freedom?" Severus asked me and I felt the worried on the tone of his voice. I continued walking and uttered. "Yeah. Claire need to be free. And she don't have a power, so if she betray us, I know that we can notice her steps to ruin it," I said while stepping closer to the detention gate back again to my pack house. But she killed her father, right? What if her power came back since she was the one who learned it from her mother? Severus added. Seemed like he did not put any trust to Claire. Sigh. I sighed as replied. I just took a deep breath and let him to think negatively. Because I knew that Claire would never do anything if I was always observing her very steps. And I'm sure her iron heart would melt if she finally see her clans before she tried to betray me again. I warn you here. Claire hurt you once and we did not know when will she may hurt you. He said, but I did not put much care about it since I knew the limit of her power. Don't worry about that, Sev. Just trust me, I said without looking at him. TCK. He flicked his tongue as he replied at me. I'm sure thinking about my being stubborn. Claire's POV. See you in hell. Hirre Monreal. I laughed secretly as I replied only by myself. I followed them by my eyes as they walked away. And I left again inside this freaking four corners room. I really felt boredom again, but every time I thought about the plan that I would execute, my heart beats fast. I wanted to laugh like a devil that won against good deeds. I rolled my eyes when the door shut. The deafening silence embraced me again and the wide grin that I wore faded. The warm tears started to build inside my eyes and I could feel the itching of my eyelids. I felt again the real tears that now flowed to my cheeks. I sobbed and the image of my mom appeared again in my mind. Her pitiful face filled with bruises and scar from the violent fist of my father. But those sadness appeared nothing when I killed my father by my own hands. And if I could kill my own blood and flesh, I could also kill Hirre and anyone who ruined my life. I stood and went to the simple room that Tyranny Pack jail provided for me. I saw again the small space with a small bed. I threw my gaze at the wall and a wide grin surfaced on my face again. I walked toward the wall with many graffiti that I created. Goodbye hell, I muttered as I touched the wall that facing me. The wide grin started to become a loud laughter when I felt the hardness of the wall that become my guard while I'm staying here. I knew that I would feel free if I used Hirre. We were just using each other and I felt pity for her. Because if I met the Halleck's leader first, if he was still alive, I would beg for dark magic to regain on me. And I would use it to find the enemies that ruined our life, mostly all the werewolves and human. Boo wahahaha. I laughed and laughed before I laid on my bed, staring at the emptiness of the ceiling. 1, 2, 3. I counted numbers and I felt the heaviness of my eyelids. The bed calling me to deep slumber. And this night was the perfect night I have for the almost year that I'm here. Because this was the loneliness night that brought me to the better tomorrow. Here's POV. In the next morning I prepared my things early as before the first ray of the sun showed. I put everything that I need before I went to the place where I could find the Haloxian tribe. Knock. Knock. I heard the loud knock in my door twice. I halted what I'm doing and went to the door to open it. Ma'am Hillary, the prince is waiting for you. My maid exposed as she gave me the news. Okay. Just bring my things downstairs. I smiled at her after ordering her. I left her to do my preparations and calmly went downstairs, and I was shocked as I saw Severus with his gamma and beta. I knitted my eyebrows in wondering as I went closer to them. Why they are here, Severus? Don't say. They were going with us? I asked as I sat on the couch. Yes, I never expected that he would bring them with us since we just talked it just the three of us. Yes. I commanded them to go with us because we still don't know the enemies. We need to think our safety. He replied, and I thought he was right. Are you ready? I asked as I scanned the area. They looked at me and nodded their head. So if all of are ready, we can go now. Please tell to the detention jail's guard to set Claire free. I said to them before I ordered my beta. Gamma Elias and Beta Leo stared at me and they were shocked that they heard me ordered to set Claire. I knew they were wondering but I did not put too much care to them. Let's go. I added and went to the outside. They followed me and we met Claire who silently standing on the other side of the camper van. I nodded my head to catch her attention and she went closer, even her eyes were still elusive to Severus and his companion. Few hours later the deafening silence exploded between us who sitting on the same van. Gamma Elias was the driver and next to him was Leo. We, Severus and Claire were on the back seat. But we seemed like a win since we were not talking to each other. Might be because they were still questioning me for Claire's freedom. But they did not know that I already get my grandfather and king's consent to make this plan. And they give me a chance to execute it by the help of Claire. Claire, can you please tell us what direction is your pack would be? I whispered as I tilted my head toward Claire who's sitting in my right side. It was too far from this town. But as far as I remember it located in the Mount Madre. She replied as she kept on looking at the road. I knew Elias did not hear that because she seemed like speaking by herself. After that, I contacted Gamma Elias for the direction. It's already noon when we reached the foot of the Mount Madre. It was too high to bring our van out there. So we decided to go there by walking. Since I was good in climbing high mountain range, I easily conquered the high grasses and deadly edges of the ravine, and after almost 2 hours of walking, we finally reached the very summit of the mountain peak. Actually, there was a shortcut way but the river was now flooding due of heavy rainfall so we could not cross the river by our bare body. The surrounding was too cold and the fog made the place creepy. It seemed like the sun hates this place because even the hour was nearly to noon, the sun was absent here. We did not go far from each other. We did not let our guard down because we did not know if there was enemies around since we could not see the surrounding if it was 10 meters away from us. Guys, be alert. Severus warned us but even he did not say that. We knew that it's harmful to do the things that out of our insight. Severus and his Gamma and Beta were lead the way, while Claire and I were on their back. Be careful, Claire. I warned her since she did not have any power to distinguish the danger. I can handle myself here. Don't worry. She replied and I just nodded my head while taking few steps. The fogs were getting thicker and it really hard for us to ensure safety on our way. Wait! Severus shouted and it caught out attention quickly. What is that, Prince? Elias asked wondering. Me, also was wondering so I stepped closer. And before I get closer, Severus shouted again. Bones. There was bones here. Be careful guys. I tilted my head down to know what Severus trying to say. And I really put in shocked as I saw the human bones scattered around. And even though the place was filled with fogs, I could clearly see the numbers of bone that accurate to what my grandpa told me. I felt relief when I remembered Claire. She's telling the truth that this place is her previous tribe. And it might be it was the reason why they telling me that this place is now protected by the dark magic. But how can we find the remaining Hallex? I muttered while my eyes scanning the area. And when I looked back, Claire was gone. Where is she? I whispered in myself as I could not see her around. I really worried about her because she don't have power to use for protecting herself. Here. Someone is running that way. Severus called me as he pointed out the direction. I looked at the one who running hoping that she was Claire, but she's not. Let's follow him. Elias added, and I was little surprised when I heard him. What? Him? So where is Claire? Is this just a bait for us? Is she telling lie? I could not stop asking myself. Suddenly, I was interrupted when Severus grabbed my hand and we ran toward the direction where the unknown man ran. We breathed heavily as we stopped in the edge of the dead river. Where is he? Did you see where he go? Questions threw in each other, but we could not tell where he goes since the fog was too thick to follow him. No. And we still failed to find him. Wait. Where is Claire? And like what I expected, even Beta Leo noticed that Claire was not here. Shit. Did we left her alone in the field? Gamma Elias replied, in the tone of his voice, he was little worried about Claire's safety. No. We did not. She already gone before we came here. I said before they blamed each other. What? She left us? Severus asked me, knitting his eyebrows. Yes, and I was worried about her. She don't have power to protect herself. Also, she was now weak. We need to find her first. I said to lessen the anger that Severus might feel. I knew he trusted Claire less, and bringing us in this place was my responsibility. No, here. I think Claire betrayed us. And the man that we chasing is her subordinate. What if Sion and her planned all this? Severus' voice echoed as he growled about Claire's sudden disappearance. We don't have evidence, Prince. What if Claire was in danger at this moment? We need to find her first before we act like this. Elias whispered at Severus. I knew he was right. We need to stay calm to know everything we wanted to. TCK. Severus just flipped his tongue to make disgusting sound of disapproval. But I did not mind him, and I lead the way back to the field. Shit. Where are we? I muttered when I saw the recent place we were. There was no fog, even the bones that scattered around. Only dry grasses filled the area. Here, we are not safe here. We are under the black magic. Severus went closer to me and whispered. But it doesn't give me goosebumps. I took a deep breath and stood fiercely. Stay calm, Severus. They are here. I said when I felt the same force that seemed like connected me to the witch world. Third-person POV. Here and Severus's comrade were kept on standing in the middle of the dry grass field. The cold surrounding was still, but they felt the heat of the beads of sweat flowing down their temple. Here looked straight in the direction where she sensed the strong forces. Arg! Gamma Elias yelped in pain when the invisible forces tried to take his breath away. Help! He trembled as he added. And it made the other three look back where Elias was. Here. Severus called Hirre, trying to get her attention to look at Elias. Hirre widened her eyes. This was the first time she saw a man floating. She felt nervous, as if her face became pale because Elias was 5 meters away from the ground, and for sure, he would take away by that invisible force if they did not react faster. Sev. Pulled him down, she shouted, but the person she called looked like a statue because he was stuck in the place where he's standing. Even Leo was stuck the same. Shit. She muttered because she was the only one that could still move. Sigh. I need to know who made this, I whispered to myself, knitting my eyebrows as I looked around. Show yourself. We are not enemies, she shouted that echoing around. But she looked like speaking in the wind because no one replied to her. I'm Hirre Monreal, Vermont. The only heir and the granddaughter of Felicia Mordo of Vermont. She introduced herself loudly as she could. Thud. Elias slammed into the ground heavily. He touched his neck as he stood quickly while Severus and Leo escaped from the invisible ground glue. They hear me. Hirre muttered as she saw Severus and his comrade in good condition. I know you can see us. Please show me yourself. We need your help. She added, searching for little things that might appear around. After a few moments, the grassy field becomes a natural forest. There were towering trees and mossy rocks around. Hirre and Severus looked at each other. They finally find the key to understanding the magic. What are you doing here, heir of Vermont? A voice echoed behind them. And when looked back, a hoodie man appeared. He was wearing a native black hoodie sleeves. And behind him was another 3 people who looked like native people. We are here to find the Holoxian leader. Anyway, sorry to disturb your silence, old man. Hirre said as she bowed her head to give respect. Here. Severus grabbed Hirre's wrist as he pulled Hirre behind him. He did not want to lose respect, he just protected his woman from a danger that might come. No, Sev. He is not our enemy. She minds linked Severus and contacted the other 3 to give respect. Werewolves are not allowed here, daughter of Ganymed. But because you are the one that we waiting for a long time, you can go with us to have some talk. The man said, but it was really refused by Severus. No. She will never go with you without us. Severus tightly clenched Hirre's wrist. See, can they be with us? They are my companion to go here, so. Please. Hirre begged, and the old man nodded his head. And before they blinked twice, the surroundings change. They were now in the middle of the small village, where the small huts were built. Is this the new Holoxian tribe? Hirre was stunned as she saw the place, and she could not stop herself not to ask Severus. I don't know. But by how they use magic, I think, you are right. Severus whispered as he replied. Suddenly, the group of people came and they looked at Hirre seriously. Leo and Elias readied themselves as Severus did. But, Claire was still calm as she faced the old man. Why werewolves here? Do you want us to die again? Kill them. Take their head. Hang them to death. The crowd cursed them. Hirre felt sad as she saw how the people in this tribe were really swallowed by anger like what other werewolves did. Enough. Our visitors are not our enemies. She is the granddaughter of our head chief. The old man shouted to cease the cursing of the people. What? She is the daughter of Ganymed? I thought she doesn't have child. They murmured at each other. They could not believe what they heard. So, if it is true, why she is with werewolves? A woman shouted from afar. Hirre stood firmly and cleared her throat. Sorry, but if you did not ask. I am a werewolf too. But my witch blood brought me here. And I need your help to stop the riot between you and the werewolves. She bravely said. That made the people look at each other. I need to learn magic from you because if my blood collapsed, I will die, and if that happens, everything will stay like stagnant water. There will be no freedom and changes. I wanted to make everything right so that we don't have to hate each other. because we both have one enemy that is still unknown," Hirre added. The old man was confused as he heard what Hirre said. "What do you mean?" the old man asked. "There was a group that do devil things to ruin the relationship of two clans. And according to my investigation, that group was still anonymous. They are the reason why our clans are still in conflict," Hirre added, and it created a loud murmur around. Some were believing and some were not. "If that is true, why you still did not know them?" the man asked. "Because it doing secretly. And for sure Desdemonian Pack created this conflict to gain power and become honored if the two clans have war." Severus jumped for conversation. "Desdemonian Pack? It that the pack that leads by Trainer? He is the one that burned our land and killed my people. If you telling that they are the main reason, I'm willing to help you here," the old man uttered in anger. He clenched his hand and the wind blew boisterously. "Who is Trainer?" Hirre asked confusingly. She did not know, even heard about that name from her grandpa. "He is the one that lead the werewolves to kill us. He used his power and wealth to order every armies to bury our homes. He is quite strong, that holds everyone's neck. He is desperate in power and position," the old man said as he kept on clenching his rod. But my grandpa did not tell me about him. So, where is he?" Hirre asked, knitting her eyebrows. "That is the thing that we don't know. Because after they destroy our homes, we escape and hide for almost a decade here." An old lady appeared behind Hirre. She was coating by old sleeves. Her gray hairs were seen, but her skin were have no wrinkles. The crowd bowed their head as if their head was nearly close to the dirty ground. They waited the old lady's command before they stood up. "I know you are going back here. And thank you for seeking our help. Anyway, I am the leader of this tribe. Hiwagamawari," the old lady said, which made Hirre politely greeted her. "Hirre, I want you to help us. Please take my power as a bestow for your own sake. I'm willing to help you to achieve the magic that now running in your veins. But please remember that using it is not easy. You will experience struggle and pain. But I know you can do it," the old lady said with a smile that surfaced on her face. Hirre looked at Severus. Her eyes were filled of joy and excitement because she finally received the approval of the Holoxian leader. Thank you. Thank you so much," Hirre happily uttered. Her hands were shivering as she swallowed a mouthful saliva. "You are welcome here. Because Felicia, your grandmother, sacrificed a lot for our clans. And we are hoping before that you will come back to embrace the destiny of being a witch. And we are so glad that you are here," the lady said happily. At that moment, Severus was really happy hearing that. He knew that Hirre would be happy too if she brought peace between two clans. "As for now, I want you here to stay here for the training," the old man said again, which made Severus to lost his smile as he heard that. "No. We will stay here in any longer," Severus growled. He did not want to left here. "Don't worry, Werewolf. She will be alright," the old man added, but Severus shook his head. "Enough, Severus. I'm doing this for our sake. Just calm yourself. I know how to handle myself. Also, we need to hurry up finding the real enemy. You will to win and I need to train. Let me do this alone," Hirre said at Severus. She wanted to clear Severus's mind. Severus clenched his hands into fist when he could not refuse to Hirre's order. He knew that Hirre was right, but he was still worried about her. "If that is your wish, Please just take yourself. I need you. We need you. We will back to our world, but keep promise that you will turn safe, okay? Severus stretched his hand to hold Hirre's soft palm. I do. Hirre looked directly at Severus's eyes before Severus and his two comrades walked away. Here's POV. In the next day I woke up early. The surroundings was silent and it really gives me a lot of time to enjoy the moment that I stayed here. It was too far from the world I have. I sat on my bed, wanted to breathe fresh air from the outside. But I was a little worried about Severus since we didn't contacted each other. I didn't receive any messages from him if they were reached home safely. And aside from Claire also bothered me. I didn't know what happened at her. Suddenly, the door opened made by ragged sacks since my room was not private. It was just a simple wooden room that have small space that could accommodate my small bed. But I was thankful for this because some of the people here were sleeping under the oak tree. A young girl appeared and she was resemblance to Claire's face. Actually, they were look-alike. Good morning. Tea. This is your tea. Ms. Hillary. Her small sweet voice made me smile. She put the cup of tea on the right side of my bed. She tilted her head down when she that I'm staring at her. Thank you kid. I said as I stretched my arm to touch her soft blonde hair. The young girl nodded as a reply. I took the tea and sipped it. Madam told me to bring you at the training ground after you take your tea. She added, and I saw from her face the innocent eyes that talking to me. I halted what I'm doing. Okay. It will not take too long, I said, giving her a sweet smile. And after a while, she led me toward the massive tent. I entered and I saw the old lady from last night. Are you ready? Her voice echoed and I nodded my head as a response. She smiled and the surrounding changed. I was now surrounded by lichens. My heart beats fast as I looked around me. There were so many and I remembered about the lichen that I encountered before. However, the lichens in my front were just a hallucination created by magic. Use your inner self to defeat them. Your blood will tell you everything you need to know. Just calm yourself and seek for it. Her husky voice entered my ears. I closed my eyes but I still heard the sounds of the lichens around me. I felt they were real. I need to overcome this fear and find the true power inside me. Go. Her voice echoed again and I sharpened my ears to know the enemies. This was just a test but I need to know the capability of my power. Thud. I successfully dodged the attack of one enemy without moving from where I am standing. I could feel my blood circulating around my veins. And when I opened my eyes, I felt the gravity pulling everything up to air. I could use my hands and eyes to bring them wherever I wanted. Is this real? I muttered when a small twigs of a tree float at my front and I really felt the connection between us. And how ridiculous because I could easily get it by moving hand toward me. Thud. But before I caught it, it fell on the ground. Accompanied by its sudden fall from the air to the dirt, the lichen jumped to attack me. Shit. I muttered as I rolled on the ground to dodge again. And I forget my witch power. Only my werewolf's sense helped me to survive. I quickly stood to continue what I'm planning. I readied myself. Quickly focused at the enemies. I opened my palm wide and released the power within me. I felt a strange ability coming out. Arg. I forced myself to fight the enemies and they finally sent away by the great force that come out on my hand. Great. The old lady complimented me with a round of applause. I just smile a bit because I really wondered how it happened. I averted my gaze away from her and looked at my hand. It was shaking a bit. I did not expected that I would defeat them by one hit. I suddenly remembered about the Desdemonian. If this is the real power of the witch, why they still ruined by the werewolves? Is the Desdemonian leader who named Trainer was a witch also? I asked myself because if the witch power could slay that Lycan easily, so they could also kill Desdemonian. But the problem was the real identity of the leader. Madam. Can I ask something? Is Trainer a werewolf or not? Madam Hiwagamawari suddenly turned taciturn. She sat silently and let a moment pass before she replied. Trainer is a very clever boy. He managed to convince us to teach him about magic. We helped him but he used it for a bad doing. We punished him and it created a conflict between us. He went to human world and he learned science and technology there. And when he came back, he destroyed my tribe and told us that werewolves ordered him. And we almost live a lie when we started to believe on what he said. Hiwaga replied. Her voice was low, showing a deepest sorrow. I felt her since I was been betrayed by the people I trusted the most. So, he used what he learned to kill the tribe? I asked to get more information. Yes. He was with the hundreds of werewolf that kill my people. And until now, we still blaming werewolves. But we did not even realize that even them are also betrayed by his clever plan. I knitted my eyebrows and I thought about what she say. And before another training happened, I did a speculation about that unknown enemy identity. What if the man that I encountered last time is the Desdemonian leader? What if he know me? What if I met him already? Questions sprout on my mind. I felt nervous in his real identity. Here. You need to be safe. They are now mixing the magic and science. They are planning to rule our world. You need to find him and make him perish before he overruled the world. Hiwaga said and I felt the truth behind, third-person POV. Inject the drug. Feel the power that now in our hands. Boo-wah-ha-ha-ha. The devil-like laughter echoed around the entire massive dark cabin. The people who gathered here were now drowned with drugs that they inject into their bodies. The people looked like a group of hooligans because of their horrible appearance. Where is our next target? My hands are itchy. I feel it want to kill somebody again. The horrible voices of men sounded throughout the entire room. All of them were having fun taking the drugs that slowly entering their body. Easy men. Tomorrow is our lucky day. The campaign is now ended tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure that the people are gathered in the same location. We will kill everyone who supported the Abrams heir. Another man with a low and husky voice uttered. He was sitting in the darkest part of the cabin. That's great. The men shouted for joy as they made a horrible laugh again. We need to make sure that no one will go home alive if they are the supporters of the other party. The unknown man added and his white teeth were seen even in the dark when he smirked. He drank a glass of wine as he kept on watching the men injecting the drugs into their bodies. And not a further second, the horrible loud yelp. Arg! Everyone in the cabin who injected drugs growled in pain as they suffered from the reaction of the drugs on their body. And while they were rolling in pain, the unknown man grinned widely seeing his men in that situation. It's starting. Kek. He muttered as he drank again a final drop. Suddenly, The cabin were filled by the horrible yelp, and after a moment of pause, their yelp turned as a growl. Finally, the unknown man uttered as he stood to see his men's new appearance. Their weak body before turned as a muscular one that really shows strength. Their height added and their body turned massive and broad. They really looked like a badass. Their intimidating aura were become terrifying when they turned into a massive grey wolf. "Go and show your new self," the unknown man added as he stood firmly. His face was covered by black mask and a dark sunglasses. He walked around and as he ordered the werewolves to run away to chase other wolves to kill. Thud. The werewolves run faster and they looked like a whirlwind as they made a boisterous wind as they jumped from the high window one by one. They were eager to kill because their eyes were filled by anger and the thing that's so-called drugs. They were now modified kind of wolves. Kawahahaha. Sorry Hillary Vermont, but I think your money can't win against us. Unknown man laughed when he finally saw the numbers of werewolves coming out from the cabin. "Welcome nightmare," he added, and he could not restrain from laughing. He danced like a weird crazy man as he drank his wine. And just threw it away like a useless thing. Severus's POV. After we left here in the Holoxian tribe, there was no vacant moment that I did not worry about her safety. I knew she was strong, but that kind of people that's so untrustworthy made me not to feel sleep. Even a slumber was so greedy to visit myself. It was late at night but I was still in my balcony, wishing to the goddess for Hirre's safety. And I do always wishing for my victory for being a king, since tomorrow was the last day for my chance to educate the people about my advocacy. I took a deep breath in the cold air. The night was too dark for me to stay here alone. Only the starry night enlightened my world. "I hope you are okay, my mate," I said as I held the glass of champagne. "Prince, what are you doing?" Gamma Elias asked me by mind link. "Why? Is there a problem?" I said seriously. "Yes. And the king want to talk with you," he replied, and I felt that there was a very important thing that my father wanted to say, since it's too rare that he called me this late night. And he did not do it for a sudden without any heavy reason. "Okay. I'll go after you," I said and left my champagne unfinished. I stood and went downstairs. And from the second floor of our pack house, I saw my father talking with the armies. I knitted my eyebrows when I sensed madness toward my father's voice. Suddenly, Leo came, holding my suit since I just wearing my pajama and white sleeveless shirt. "Father? What is the problem?" I asked, wondering. "The hooligans are back. They destroy the campaign arena. I already sent the armies there but no one came back to report the situation there," my father angrily said, and he slammed the table with his strong fist. I was put in surprised when I heard him. I knew that it would be happen since the real enemies were still unknown, but at this moment, I thought we could find them easily. "Don't worry, father. I will go there with my armies. I will tell you immediately everything if I reach the arena," I said as I stood firmly. "Let's wait first their report. It is dangerous for you to go there, especially you are the candidate," my father replied, but I could not wait to go there. Because the hooligans will really go beyond their limit. I thought that we need to hurry up finding the real culprit. "But father, they are almost ruined the world we have," I retorted. "It's because of the witch. They use dark magic to order the hooligans to attack us to take revenge." I suddenly threw my gaze at him, upon hearing that shit ideology from him. "Dad. The witches don't know what's happening here. They are just a victim of the Desdemonian pack and they are the real enemy," I shouted, and it made my father feel surprised. I expected this reaction from him, so I was ready for the explanation. Severus POV. "What do you mean?" my father retorted, and I took a deep breath before I told him everything I knew, since he was empty-minded that I already met the Holoxian tribe. "Father, I know you will never believe me, but I already meet them. They told me that they don't have any connection to the hooligans that ruined the other packs," I replied, but seemed like my father did not believe me. "Are you out of your mind? They are our enemy, the lowest of the low. They wanted to destroy and stand out in this world because they are nothing but their evil power," my father angrily uttered. I knew he was mad at them, but I need to tell him everything. "No, Dad, actually Hirre is now in the Holoxian tribe to train," I said, that which made my father felt shocked. "What? Is Mr. Vermont know this?" he growled at me, and I just nodded my head as a response. I knew he was worried about Hirre's safety. He widened his eyes and I was sure he could not believe on that. He turned taciturn. "Sorry to say, Dad, but I think we are all misconception about the real intent of the witches. Hirre is now doing her best to create the world that ruined by the misunderstanding," I replied, and my father suddenly thought about that. My father did not talk for a moment. He just playing with his fingers while thinking what I said. "Father, I need to go. I decided to stand because I have something to do to fight the hooligans." But when I was about to stand, he grasped my hand and said, "I believe you, my son. But I did not know how to help you and Hirre. All I can do is to put all my support to the both of you," my father said, and I felt happy hearing that. "Your support is our greatest companion to win the battle, Father." "Thank you." I tapped his hand and he smiled at me. "Anyway, I think it's time to go. I need to buy time to fight them." "Okay. I will send our armies before you go. Just call me no matter what is the situation is," he said, and I immediately leave the area. The armies moved first. Gamma Elias and Beta Leo were with me. We went the arena as soon as possible to reach out the hooligans. "Prince, what if Alpha Gregor planned this to make you lost in the campaign?" Beta Leo said. "How it would be if that arena is where the campaign take place tomorrow. For sure he is now also worried about the location." Gamma Elias replied, and I thought he have a point, since we Alpha Gregor used the place together. And he would not ruin the arena for his own sake. Sigh. No matter the intention of that fucker. For sure he will not plan to destroy the arena. I jumped on their conversation. What if? We don't know the flow of his mind. And he is your enemy in every angle, not only in the campaign. For sure he will do everything to make your career as ruin. Leo said, emphasizing how devil-doers was Gregor. Nah. He will never act that way. Because he is now cleansing his name for the people, Elias uttered. I was little bothered by what they talking about. But at this moment, I need to capture even one of the hooligans. Because if their DNA was accurate to the recent hooligans that I examined before, they were connected to one pack that's still anonymous for us. Suddenly, I smelled the different smell that I was familiar with. Wait. Did you smell that? I asked the other two, and they stopped the car. Yes. Elias replied as he hit the brake. We looked around, but only TBE darkness overfilled the area. It's gone. But after a moment, the smell was vanished. We also empty-minded where and when we smell that scent. I opened the door to know who was around. But Elias stopped me to get out. "Prince. It's dangerous to go outside. Let's go," he said, and I agreed because I really empty-minded who might be the one that would show in the dark. We continued driving until we reached the arena. But even we did not mind the scent, it was still fresh in me. I would find that person after this. "Prince Severus. The hooligans are coming." One of the armies came as he kept on shouting. He was bathed in blood and his clothes was ruined. He have a big bite mark on his arms and for sure he would die after a few hours because of blood lost. "Hurry. Move," I shouted when I saw the army laying on the ground after one of the hooligan werewolves give him a strong bite force. I jumped out from the car to help the other. I need to stop this bullshit war by searching the real devil. And despite of what my father told me, I immediately formed as my wolf. I need to search the scent from this battlefield. Grr. I sharpened my teeth and my fangs grew longer. I jumped toward one of the hooligans by darting my feet from the ground. I place my fangs against its throat and his loud yelp echoed around. His blood spurted from his dirty body and I smell again the stingy blood that looked like a rotten flesh. To my surprise, Elias shouted, "Prince. Behind your back." I quickly turned around and I saw a massive werewolves. It jumped from the air and it immediately get closer to me. I quickly dodged the werewolves before he made a deep wound on my skin. "What do you think of me, huh?" I thought as I hit its abdomen where his weak point was located. But when I tried to hit him, I felt the tightness of his abdominal part. And instead of sending him away from me, he stood still. What the hell is this monster? I'm sure that I hit him in his weak part. How it can be? Third-person POV. Severus gritted his teeth in anger as he glared at the massive werewolf that kept his feet on the ground. Severus scratched his feet on the dirty ground as he readied himself to attack the enemy. "Come and show what you got, Prince. I know you are the one that killed my comrades. Now show me how strong you are." "Kek," the black werewolf said with annoying tone of voice. Thud. Thud. The steps of the approaching enemy heard while the surrounding were filled by the sound of the roaring wild yelp heard along the arena. The armies jumped from their car to fight the other hooligans. They were fighting with all their forces after knowing how strong the enemies. The dead bodies scattered and they were mostly the armies that the king sent before. Grrrrrrr. Severus sharpened his nails to make a deep wound against the enemy. "Prince. Focus. They are not just a normal enemies. They are all enhanced by drugs," Elias shouted again while he was kept on fighting the other enemy. Severus did not reply as he heard what Elias told at him. He already knew that the enemies were all modified since he conducted secret research about the enemies. Severus ran faster as he could to make a good force toward the opponent. "First of all, I hate a pushover werewolf that uses drugs to become strong," Severus muttered and he grabbed the back feet of his enemy to lost its balance. Thud. And he succeeded on what he planned. But even he used to drag the enemy, it doesn't matter when the enemy stood again. It ran and jumped toward Severus. But when Severus knew that there was enemy that coming again, he dodged it by rolling on the ground before he stood. They rolled over and over the dirty cold ground. But they were still could stand alone. Ignoring the pain that they felt because of the deep scratch from their skin. Severus's POV. It really hard for me to fight him since he have a great strength and fighting ability. Also, His flesh was tightened and the muscle in his body was hard. My breath was panting heavily as I used to move from place to place. "I told you, Prince. We are not just a mere wolves like you," the enemy said while he's stepping around me. His annoying voice really make me mad. His desperate personality that wanted to taste my power would be easy because I would be his worst nightmare after this. To shut the mouth of that man up, I sent him flying with a powerful kick after I ran toward him. I hit him right on his stomach, sending him rolling furiously on the ground before finally landing on the cold ground. From the distance, one could see him close to death since he was still moving. And before he stood, I darted on the ground and stepped his stomach. The blood spurted out from his mouth and its stingy smell made me shook my head. "Shit. Your freaking personality with stingy blood smell need to vanish quickly," I muttered, and I growled as I decided to end his life at this moment. I opened my mouth wide and put my sharp fangs and teeth against his neck. I bit it with all my force and I taste the blood that he have. I stepped his stomach hardly as I bit the neck to remove it from his body. The men in the area could only widen their eyes, obvious that they couldn't believe what they had just seen, mostly some of the armies and hooligans. Some of the enemy had their smiles frozen, thinking that they were just seeing things so impossible. And silence engulfed the entire place. It took a good while before all the other men in the area who had seen the sudden occurrence to react on what had just happened. And when they did, it was already too late. "Attack them!" I shouted loudly as I saw how the enemies become statue for losing one of their great warrior. So with their worried expression remaining on their face, my comrades sent them flying before they could have the chance to know what was going on. Swoosh! Crash! Surprisingly, beating those guys was quite good to feel. I was having pleasure sending them flying using our own fist. This feeling was really too good. With the thought of having the pleasure to beat those people, I started beating them up into a pulp one by one. Some of them who pissed me greatly were unlucky enough to receive my wrath as they finally suffered their end. It only took me less than 5 minutes before I completely subdued all the people there. Every one of them was either unconscious or was lying weakly on the ground with broken bones, deep wounds, or even missing body parts. And right now, you will never win, Prince. The last enemy I had beaten up badly was still making me annoy. His body was full of blood and deep wounds, his red eyes were just kept on glaring, and I did not have any choice but to kill him. "I'm so sorry, but you are still wrong," I said with nonchalant expression. Thus, I slammed his head on the cold ground before he responded. His blood wet the ground, and Gamma Elias was surprised as he got closer with Leo. "Tell to the king that we resolve the wrath here. But there is no remain alive to question them about this," I ordered, and we left the arena messed up. Whoosh! But suddenly, before we about to go, I smell again the familiar scent. And I'm pretty sure that I was not wrong in guessing it. Who? Gregor. What are you doing here? Why are you hiding yourself while our arena is now messed up? Do you know about this? I thought, wondering as I scanned the area. Here's POV. Arg. I rolled over the dirty ground as I felt the great force coming from the invisible power from the witch leader. Even she was old, her power was really great that sent me away from my recent location. It's been 3 days since I started to use my dark magic, but she was still strong. I could not use my power very well after I locked my wolf to use magic very well. And aside from me, I met other youngster who were willing to learn magic. They were all good in fighting and their magic was better than me. Stand here. Stand. The leader shouted and even my knees were shivering. I stood slowly, holding one of my knee to support my left foot to stand. Can you still fight, Miss Hillary? One of the Holoxian guard asked me. I just nodded my head as a response and I quickly stood to continue the battle. We were been 6 hours fighting against each other but I couldn't win against her. I need to focus here so they can give me freedom to take rest. I muttered at myself as I stared at the leader. Miss Hillary. I know you can still remember our deal, right? Hiwaga shouted as she stood firmly from afar. Yes. I briefly replied. And I prepared myself again for the battle. I felt again the force from my body. It flowed around my entire body. Antewa. I pronounced the spell that could give me a power to elevate everything around me. And after I said that words, the stones around me raised from the ground. Laki ulabas pigmabon. The stones sent away toward the direction of the leader and before she noticed my attack, I made another spell so she could not win against me. For sure Hiwaga Mawari was surprised about my new skill, even that spell was my first spell that I used to learn by myself. Whoosh! And like what I expected, she was put in surprised seeing the stones flying toward her. She quickly dodged and blocked my way as she moved faster toward me. You are great here. But for now, I will let you to take a rest. See you later here. Third-person POV. And along her journey here, not even a single person dared to flaunt their strength in her presence. People would either avoid eye contact, ignore her, or stay away from her as soon as possible. That was also why when she arrived in this place yesterday, it became hard for her to ask for direction. Whenever she asked, and people saw her appearance, they would immediately leave in a hurry as some people wouldn't even put any attention to her as if she was just a wind. That only meant that no one wanted to fight her and was scared of her. Jenna was helpless as she only thought for that reason. She even blamed herself for being too strong to the point that people around her were too scared to talk with her. Never had she thought in her mind that people in that place just didn't want to bother with anyone to avoid unnecessary trouble. And looking at her beggar appearance, they were afraid that the old beggar was protecting her. That was why no one dared to take a risk and make anything funny to her. In any case, Jenna was helpless when people ignored her even when she showed her puppy eyes. She even thought to give up asking and just find the purple mist forest on her own since everyone was too scared of her. But her thought of giving up suddenly disappeared when she saw Sael flaunting his amazing control and his weapon energy. When she saw him, her fighting spirit had immediately raised to the highest level as she didn't think anything much and thought that he was trying to find someone to fight. Finally, she found someone with guts and capability. That being said, Jenna immediately rushed towards the other party like a terrifying beast hunting for prey. In her mind, after she beat this kid up and proved her superiority, only then would she ask for a direction. Meanwhile, Dugo Zugot and Sael and Selmo looked at each other before they simultaneously took a nod. It was evident that they had silently sent a message as they could understand each other just by looking into each other's eyes. Look, a flying fried chicken! Sael and Selmo suddenly shouted in shock as he pointed his forefinger behind Jenna. What did you say? Where? Jenna was surprised to hear such words as she hurriedly turned around to look for the flying fried chicken with anticipation. But when she found nothing and only plenty of people walking past each other, She soon turned around to see the two kids. However, her expression had immediately turned dark when she turned around. She gritted her teeth and clenched her fist before she roared furiously, "Where do you think you are going? How could these two dare to use fried chicken to trick her and run away pretty fast? They didn't even give a warning as they suddenly left her with their dust behind. This was certainly unforgivable." "Stop you two," Jenna roared again as she ran after them. But seeing how far away they were, she couldn't help clenching her fist and teeth even more harder. This time, her veins had even popped out on her fist and forehead. And shortly after, her lips formed a terrifying and frustrated smile as she boosted her speed and roared again, "I will definitely kill you too." Meanwhile, Dugo and Sael had quick feet as they ran away from the brute girl without hesitation. Although Sael could run faster since he had energy to spare, he chose to follow the speed of Dugo. But of course, their speed was still more than enough to leave Jenna behind.